Hello there guys, my name is Jay or DA and welcome back to another episode of the Space Engineers Old Norse Shipyards build videos, where today we're looking at a new craft that I've gone through and designed over the weekend, and it is called the Fadir. Now, the Fadir is a craft that is designed to bring a whole squadron of mini fighters to an area so then they can engage the enemy, or you can move the crafts long distance around the planet and then be able to detach them, land them at another base. And it's just a really good way of moving around your forces. And of course it can be used as a refueling ship as well, because it does have the features on there. Now this video will probably act as like two sort of spotlight videos, because we've got the Fadir, which is the main craft you're seeing right now, and then we also have the Riki Vega fighter variant, which, as you can see, they're both the same colours, but they are different colours to what the Old Norse shipyard stuff normally looks like. Now, the reason why I've done this is because the Fadir is a lot more of a custom ship. It's like its own squadron vessel, so you could basically colour these in different colours for different squadrons and whatnot, and it's got a bit more character to it. And I'd like to think that this craft would be a lot more tweaked, and there'd be a lot more different variants of it throughout a fleet of crafts. And I think it'd be a really cool idea to have something like this in the fleet, just as something that can be permanently on the planet for, again, just moving around your forces long distance, and it really does work quite well, I think. So what we actually have here is we have this I sort of tried to take the design from a blimp, where you've got like this large section in the middle, not too big because I don't want it to be too bulky, but then what we have on the sides is these giant side wings that basically encapsulate all of the thrust power. So we have our up left, down right, forward and backwards thrust here. So basically the whole center, the center piece of this craft is for ships and crew. So it is a very, very bulky craft, but again, compared to the Modir, I'll actually put a bit of an overlay here, but compared to the Modir, it's about 4 times as small. So for the size, it's very, very well kitted out with crafts, because this, again, being 4 times smaller than the Modir, actually has 10 mini Riki Vega fighters, which are absolutely awesome, and I actually refined them a lot more over the weekend, and my god, they've become a lot more quicker. They've had a bigger arsenal put on them, and I've actually turned them into a fighter rather than a gunship that would have like a seating area in the middle. But we'll have a look at them in a little bit. So we've got these 2 wing sections, which again, it does make it a bit vulnerable, as if those get shot off, or if they break off, it can mean the whole craft sort of falls to the planet. But they're pretty tough, to be honest. With the armor improvements to the game and everything, armor's become a lot tougher to rocket damage and, you know, gun damage. So they do actually take quite a beating before the whole craft sinks to the floor, and I have actually tested that out a little bit. But yeah, so they sort of they also have like another purpose, which is kind of to protect the crafts that are being held on it, because as you can see, they do kind of obscure the view to them, so you can't really just fly in and shoot directly at them, which is quite cool. Now, just underneath these wing sections, we actually have this sort of ship bay area, which is like a I call it the bottom deck, which is like this walkway that's caged off in certain sections. The open areas are so you can actually get to the crafts and jump inside them. And then we also have this sort of back section where you can, say, perform small tweaks and maybe add and take away stuff to your ship. It just gives you a bit more access to the main body of the craft, and I think it's pretty damn cool. And now what we do have is we have each of the connectors that connects these things hooked up, and we also have them numbered, so you can easily know what fighters have been flown out and everything, and those are named within the taskbar, you know, the terminal as well. So if you actually go into the control panel, they'll be named appropriately in here, which is good. So yeah, there's just a lot of crafts in here. Again, it's just a very standardized sort of craft that is meant to just built to carry these little crafts, and I want to make more of these that can carry specific fighters, or maybe make one that is a mixture that could say carry 5 of these and 2 large gunships, which would be absolutely badass to have. Maybe have like the big ones front and back, and then down the sides have like all of these ships, and it'd be really, really cool, because imagine having that power to just take people down in such a, by just flying one craft over there and just absolutely annihilating them. It's pretty damn sweet. So this is an open aired sort of ship, so we don't really have too many doors on this, because it is just, an atmospheric craft with no capabilities of getting out into space. But what we do have is just these open aired sections where, again, more caged work, where it's just a bit of health and safety, so you don't fall out the craft and plummet to your death. But if you come through here, you actually get this sort of a nice sort of walkway area, which does house a few lockers that, say, pilots could put their stuff in before they fly out, or visitors can put their stuff in as they sort of come into the ship. But there is more storage up above for just long-term staff on the craft. And what we have here is we have 2 first aid terminals, one down here and one at the very back in the same position on the other staircase, as well as a nice plant just to sort of make it a bit more homely. Now so what we'll do is we'll just head all the way down to here, and just to let you know, it does actually allow access to the bottom deck, which is the control deck for the launch bays for where the ships are sitting. So we do have sort of 2 cockpits here, which would be able to release the crafts from here rather than the pilots doing it, but I prefer the pilots to do it, as they know exactly when they want to take off and there's less coordination needed, so less mistakes happen. And then what we do have is taken some information from some of the large rovers that I've looked at in the past, and they have these like joint cockpits. So you have like the control cockpit at the bottom, and then you have the sort of the pilot deck at the top, which is a really, really cool idea. And the pilot deck does have a lot more visibility, and to be honest, I do struggle always with space on large ships, because the blocks don't merge or anything like that. So there may be a few spaces which do look a little bit janky, but it is purely just down to block placement in some areas. So let's have a gander at the upstairs deck. The upper deck? Should we call it the upper deck? Let's call it the upper deck. So we'll head upstairs now, and what we've got here is, again, access to the pilot sort of deck here, which we have 2 AI terminals for sort of, just giving it a nicer look, as well as making it feel a little bit cooler as you're sort of sitting here controlling it. And you do have a very good view, however you do not really see the crafts, and you're reliant upon your guys down there telling you that the crafts have disembarked for their destination to destroy. But either way, I like this room. It's very, very airy, and again, just lets all the light in, and it could be a weak point, but again, as an atmospheric craft, it doesn't particularly matter if the hull gets damaged. It just means that you potentially die, because of course you've lost that layer of protection around you. So let's head on through, and if we sort of go back on ourselves a little bit past the staircase, we have the crew quarters. Now, you actually walked past a little bit of the crew quarters, which is just inside these rooms either side. And what we have here is we have a few cryopods, just in case people are too injured to be fixed on this craft, because it doesn't have a med bay. It just has sort of med terminals dotted around the place. And I like to include these sort of cryo chambers, so people can be frozen if need be, or say if you capture people, freeze them in there, whatever. It's a nice sort of addition to have. We then have the crew quarters, which again, we have like a bunch of beds in here. We have 6 here, 6 the other sides. That's 12 all in all, and I think that's about enough. I don't think we need much more bedding than that. It doesn't seem right, really, being as half of the crew will be out of this craft most of the time. So what we then have is we then have some sort of storage areas with a little bit of a windowed section, so you can see a little bit of the ground outside. And the trouble is, you do get kind of obscured from the engine bays, but I still think it looks pretty cool. So then as you push through, we do have the reactors, which there are only 2 on this, which I did pretty well with. I was really, really chuffed with the fact that I managed to only squeeze these 2 reactors in, and they pair it really well, because I was worried about the small Riki Vegas sort of taking up a large amount of the power, but they actually don't. They don't absorb as much power as I thought they would, which is really, really cool. We then move up again, and we do have some more cryo chambers. So again, you can put a lot of people in cryo sleep if you really want to. You know, there's 3, 6. Again, there's like 12. So you've got the same sort of amount of bedding to cryo chambers, which is okay, I guess. The people could always sleep in there if they're going to be there for long periods of time. So as we push through, we have 2 kitchen areas. We have basically this mirrored on the other side, as well as some benches to eat at. And again, this is like a nice windowed section at the back of the craft, so you can actually see outward. And say if you were to plan your attack on a place, you can actually see this, because what we actually have here is like a sort of a training room of sorts, where you'd have, you know, a bunch of your pilots sitting down here. There are only 9 seats, so you'd probably have the you know, the 9 sort of squaddies, and then you'd probably have your main sort of leader at the front, general, whatever, and he'd be sort of organising the attack on the enemy. So you'd have this board and be able to plan all that out, which I think is really cool. I like having these like sort of mixed common rooms where you've got the kitchen, canteen, as well as sort of a meeting area, because it only makes sense having all these benches here, so people could, if you had any extra personnel on this craft that needed to know, you could sort of brief them as well, as they could sit on these benches. So yeah, that's basically the craft. I mean, you come back down this staircase which takes you down to the opposite side, well, to the other side, and then it's really just the ships on the side and flying this thing. So I think first off we'll fly this thing, because of course I'm sure you guys are wondering how the hell does this fly, because it does look a bit big and brutal and heavy, but it actually isn't that bad, to be fair. It's quite quick, I'll be honest, because we do have like double the propulsion going forwards, but as you can see here, we are sort of pushing off at a nice pace. I love the sound of these thrusters, because they just sound the part, and when you slow down you get that hum, that which sounds really, really freaking cool. And just imagine just whizzing through, you know, just going in to attack the enemy. It'd just be really, really cool to see. I mean, I would love to get loads of people into a server and sort of have like a coordinated attack on something, but to get that to work on Space Engineers at the moment, I mean, I'm getting a few sort of frame drops here every now and then, just because of the planets rendering in and everything. But as you can see, we do get places fairly quickly with this, and yeah, it's really, really, really nifty and nimble. So what we'll do now is I think we'll go down and have a look at the RVs and just show you how those fly, because there's a lot of changes that have happened to them, and there's a few extra features I've added to them. So one thing we have added to this is just a little bit more firepower. So rather than just having the 2 Gatling guns sort of placed middle-ish to the cockpit, we now have some rocket pods as well, just as the heavy attack, because I noticed these things were really sort of underpowered. They were sort of overpowered for infantry, so they'd conquer infantry fairly well that are running around on the ground, but if you were to like try and take on anything bigger, you've got nothing really there to take it on with. So these are like a nice multi-purpose fighter craft that again sort of sticks with the old design of the RVs, but it looks a lot better. And what I've actually done with this now is I've actually got a feature in this where you can turn on boosters for 10 seconds. So we do have hydrogen storage within these crafts now, which do get filled up from the oxygen generators from this craft, and they will sort of refuel and replenish. And basically what happens is you turn on a timer block, which basically turns on the thrusters for 10 seconds, and once that 10 seconds is up, they turn off again, and then you have like a 10-second cooldown. And that is basically just a sort of a nerf, really, because I wanted these crafts to move fairly quickly, but I wanted the ability to just have that little bit of an extra edge. So with this craft, you'd use that when you needed more maneuverability, so you'd probably turn them on. And again, it's side thrusters and forward thrusters only, so what you do is you turn it on when you sort of either need to go left or right a lot faster, or turn around a lot quicker, and you'd be able to sort of outmaneuver the enemy, or that's the hope anyway. So that is really most of the changes. There is a medium cargo container within the centre of this craft, which is hooked up right up to the connector here, so we do have a lot of ammo capacity in there now. And of course we do still have the side pod things, which we can basically just chuck stuff into, so if we did want to put ammo in manually that way we can do as well. So let's jump in and show you how you actually disembark from the Fadir. Now I'm in number 2 here, and what we basically got is we've got a few sets of controls. We have the Gatling gun, well, the Gatling guns. We then have the rocket pods. We then have number 4, which is our sort of booster thrusters. We then have 6, which turns on the thrusters for this ship, and then we also have the connector, which disengages us from the main craft. Now normally what you do with this is you'd hit number 6 first to turn your thrusters on so you don't fall because of gravity, and then what you'd have to do is just hit number 9, which basically disconnects you, and then you're sort of free to fly. Let's jump in this one and just show you how well these actually fly, because again I was quite amazed at just tweaking the things I tweaked made these things ridiculously sort of nimble. I mean, I did add a few more gyros so they sort of moved around. Oh wow, moved around a lot quicker, and as you can see I just kind of dinked it, which kind of annoys me. I'm kind of crashing everything today. It's not my day today. Let's jump in this one and just do the same thing. Disengage and try and... everything's breaking. Jesus, everything's become stupidly weak. What is this? I think Space Engineers has truly had it. Okay, let's fly this one out very gently. There we go. So the craft itself is very, very nimble. It does move around quite rapid, to be honest, and it does whip round corners very, very smoothly. But what you actually have here is, if I just look at the back thrusters on those 2 hydrogen thrusters, what we actually have here is if I hit 4, they turn on, and then just keep an eye on them, and those will give us a little bit more oomph. But after like 10 seconds they will turn off, and you'll notice the power usage drop a little bit as well, and they basically just turn off. You can't turn them on until 10 seconds is up, and then sort of you just, you know, you get back to it. And I mean, I like that. I wanted that because I think I want to fight this. I want to get the guys to fight this and see what they think. But I think it'd be a really, really nifty ship just to whip around a planet and have some really cool dogfights in. But yeah, and hopefully you guys sort of agree with the changes, because again I wanted it to be able to punch rather than just to, you know, scare the enemy away. And as you can see, it does have rocket capabilities, and again, having a craft this fast with this much armament could really, really, you know, bother the enemy, I think. And we are doing a fair amount of damage here to the Fadir, but yeah, so that is basically it. Bugs aside, I think it's a very, very good craft, and hopefully you guys will agree. If you do, and if you want to go and check it out, please be my guest and have a look at it on the workshop. Again, there's a few things that I'd love to change on it, but if anything, I'd want you guys to sort of give me some sort of comments and feedback, just to see what else I could tweak and change on it. But yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this video, please don't be afraid to like, favorite, and of course subscribe for more, and I will see you guys later. Bruce!